We talked about this a bit yesterday, and we had a really interesting response. People wanted to know more. So we're going to find out some more. As violence continues to escalate amid political tensions in Chile's capital, Santiago, concern is growing among the thousands of Chilean nationals living in New Zealand. Since the latest mass protest started on October 19th, at least 19 people have died, hundreds have been injured, and at least 7,000 have been arrested. 7,000 arrests. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs told Breakfast 130 New Zealanders are currently registered as being in Chile, and none have asked for consular assistance. But what's it like to be a Chilean away from home, and what do they make of what's happening back there? Joining me now is Auckland University law student Alejandra Caceres,
yes,
who took part in a peaceful protest in Queen Street on the weekend. Alejandra, buenos dias. It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you.
What's happening back home? First of all, what are the protests about?
The protest, it all started the first week of October, when the President Sebastián Piñera said there will be an increase in the public transport. This is the 22nd increase in 10 years.
In the cost of public transport?
Yes, in the cost.
And what we know from Paul Buchanan yesterday is there is the highest rate of income inequality in Chile throughout South America.
That's right.
So public transport and the 22nd increase in the cost of public transport disproportionately hits people at the bottom of the...
That's right.
Right.
That's right. So that is how it all started. This was a group of students that were trying to protest against it, and the people were just tired of it all. Sick of the increase on the public transport, sick of the bad pensions for our senior citizens. People are just tired of the health system not answering to anybody.
And so people just reached the end of their tether, really, didn't they?
That's right.
And the government's response was to declare a national emergency and bring in the troops.
Yes.
When, in fact, the protests didn't warrant that response.
That's right. The protest started normally, peacefully. But what Sebastián Piñera decided was to say we were in a state of emergency and a war, which is not the case.
It's an amazing thing to declare war on your own people.
That's right, that's right. And he, let's just be clear, the Chilean constitution, we are meant to be a democratic country, and our constitution was built in dictatorship. So we are currently going through a constitution built in dictatorship. So that's not right to begin with. He then went against that constitution, didn't ask the parliament, didn't ask anybody, and sent the troops. He sent the police, he sent the military forces on the streets, and they are killing our people, raping our people. There is thousands of people that are missing, killed.
And this harks back to the terrible dark time in Chile when people just disappeared, right?
That's right.
So, and there are lots of people alive who remember that time.
That's right.
So these are terrible, vivid, and actually quite recent memories.
Yes.
So how is your family, and what is it like to be away from Chile at this time? It must be terribly hard watching this happen from New Zealand.
It's terrible. There is a lot of Chileans here that we feel frustrated because there's not much we can do, but to go on social media, to come to places like this, to get the word out. My family, thank goodness, they're all good, but friends of friends have been tortured, people are missing, people have been killed, women and men have been raped by the police, by the military forces.
So what will be the circuit breaker, given the president appears to be doubling down, although he has removed people from cabinet, hasn't he? He's removed a couple of the most controversial figures from his cabinet.
He's moved some people, but he's done what we call musical chairs.
Yeah.
It's not a solution, no.
So what will be the solution? I mean, there was a protest the other day that 1 million people turned out in Santiago.
Yeah.
It's just extraordinary. So this is a popular uprising. What is it that these people want most of all?
What we all want, what the people in Chile want, is for a new constitution. We want Sebastián Piñera to resign as a president immediately because...
He's not going to do that, though, is he?
No, well, at the moment he's saying he's not. But we can't have a president that evaded 30 years of taxes, that stole money from a bank that he was a CEO of, that has send the troops to kill his own people. The people do not want a president like that. No one should have a president like that. He's violating human rights.
And so as long as he remains president, the protesters will turn out.
That's
as
right.
long as the protesters turn out, he will deploy the military against them. So is this heading somewhere terrible? How is this going to end?
It is only going to end when the government answers to the people. And by that, I mean, we can't have a minimum wage being 600 New Zealand dollars a month. A month, John. What does a family do with that? University is so expensive. No one can afford anything. The health system just puts you in a waiting list that takes years, and sometimes you get the call, oh, the spot has opened for a surgery for you, and that person has already died. The education system is bad. The water, we are the only country in the world where water is privatized.
Alejandra Caceres, it's so nice to have you in this morning. I hope
Thank
you and your family and everyone you love are going to be okay. And
Thank
you for telling us about Chile, because if we understand it, we will be able to watch those events and have some idea of what's going on and
Of
why.
course.
So we really appreciate you.
No, we really appreciate you having us. Thank you so much. We just want international coverage. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Really nice to meet you too.
You too.
Wow, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is.
Totally.
When a million people turn up, and when you think about what was taking place in Chile, which the West, particularly Margaret Thatcher, actually turned a blind eye to, you know, you can understand why people have a short fuse there.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Speaking of short fuses.
Just one thing, if you are a Chilean living in New Zealand, we'd love to hear from you. And if you have stories about what's happening back home, please get in touch, because, yeah, your voice is important.
We're going to be speaking to Professor Timothy Naish from Victoria University of Wellington later on in the show about a new report that is out that says sea level rise will actually be 3 times worse than what it's projected to be, because they did their projections wrong. They used satellites and they were getting the tops of trees and the tops of houses to like judge where the ground was. So it's going to be 3 times worse than current predictions, which is pretty scary. So we were actually wondering if climate change and the idea of sea level rise is stopping you from living by the coast.
Do you think about this? And also, what do we do for people who live by the coast? Have you been to Hector and Granity on the, so it's the north of Westport?